Obsidian dropped 3 big games across 2025, and 2 of them reportedly missed sales targets. That matters because it's the clearest sign yet that Game Pass and skins isn't a business plan when you're funding AAA-sized teams. Because gamers love jumping straight to woke ruined it, like it's a speedrun category. Obsidian is not some random indie who got lucky. This is the studio that built its whole reputation on choices matter. The crew that can make dialogue trees feel like a knife fight in a phone booth. When you're that studio, the expectation is simple. You launch the RPG, people show up, and the internet argues about the best companion for 6 straight months. Rest assured, every word you hear is coming straight from my actual vocal cords. No robots were harmed, hired, or programmed in the making of this voiceover. Now fast forward to 2025. Avowed lands in February, Grounded 2 shows up in summer, and The Outer Worlds 2 hits at the end of October. 3 releases in 1 calendar year is already a red flag, because game development is not a TikTok content schedule. It's closer to building a house, while the client keeps asking if you can just add a basement after the roof is done. Obsidian's own leadership has basically admitted that stacking releases like that wasn't the dream. It was the result of stuff going sideways and dates compressing. A crowded release calendar doesn't just split money, it splits mindshare. Mindshare is the invisible resource the algorithm actually rewards. YouTube, TikTok, Steam front pages, Xbox dashboards, it's all the same game. People remember what they saw last. When you drop one title and immediately start talking about the next, you're telling the audience the first one wasn't worth lingering on. It's the entertainment equivalent of handing someone a burger and, mid-bite, yanking it away to show them fries. And it wasn't just 3 games, it was 3 different audiences. Avowed was supposed to grab the fantasy action RPG crowd. Grounded 2 is co-op survival chaos for friends who communicate exclusively in screams. Outer Worlds 2 is sci-fi RPG satire for players who like their corporations fictional so they can laugh without crying. That's 3 marketing strategies, 3 communities, 3 patch cycles, 3 sets of creators to court, and 1 social team trying to post like they're a single game. Even if every game is good, the business can still look bad. Because costs don't care about Metacritic. Costs care about burn rate. Costs care about how long art sat in production. Costs care about how many months a team spent polishing a feature that got cut anyway. If 1 game underperforms, you can absorb it. If 2 underperform in the same year, you start optimizing, and optimizing is corporate for someone's desk is about to become a cardboard box. Here's my personal gamer anecdote. I'm the exact target for Obsidian RPGs. I'm the guy who will read every dialogue option, even when I'm supposed to be saving the world. I'm the guy who hoards consumables for later, finishes the game, and then dies with 94 health potions in my pocket like a medieval Costco member. Even I felt the fatigue. Not because I hate Obsidian, but because the vibe was constant launch mode noise, without that one big undeniable moment that says, drop everything, this is the one. When your own fans feel I'll get to it, you've already lost the casuals. Also, don't underestimate the 1 subscription, infinite backlog effect. When players can sample everything, they commit to nothing. They boot the game, play 2 hours, think neat, then bounce, because another shiny icon is begging for attention. That's not a moral failing, that's the modern content treadmill. The scariest review a game can get is I'll finish later though. If you think this is only about bad writing, wait until we talk about the money math. Let's start with Avowed, because that's the one people argued about like it personally stole their childhood. The pitch was obvious. Pillars of Eternity universe, bigger budget, first-person fantasy, Xbox's answer to we need an RPG that looks good in trailers. It also launched day 1 into Game Pass, which is great for player reach, and terrible for the old school did the store page convert. Cut check. On Steam, Avowed's all-time peak concurrency topped out around 20,000 players, hitting that high watermark on February 23, 2025. That's not nothing, it's also not Skyrim killer unless your definition of Skyrim is a mid-sized high school stadium with decent parking. And yes, Steam is only one platform, and yes, Game Pass dilutes direct purchases, and yes, Xbox has its own ecosystem. Still, Steam is where the public scoreboard exists, and Avowed's scoreboard looked like a respectable double, not a home run. The bigger issue isn't the peak, it's what they chose to make the conversation about. Instead of selling Avowed like an RPG first, a world second, and a vibe third, a bunch of the discourse got dragged into character marketing that felt like corporate HR trying to write fantasy banter. People weren't mad that the game had diverse characters. People were mad that the promo beat sometimes sounded like look, quirky companions, romance options, representation checkmarks. That kind of surface-level messaging is bait for culture war engagement, and culture war engagement is cheap calories. It creates endless posts, but it doesn't automatically create loyal players. And if you're thinking, but controversy equals marketing, sure sometimes. Except gaming audiences aren't buying soapboxes. They buy games that look fun, run well, and respect their time. When your trailer feels like it's trying to win an argument instead of win a weekend, The casual audience scrolls right past it, like it's an ad for a podcast they'll never listen to. Speaking of scrolling, wait until we hit Outer Worlds 2's social media moment. The Outer Worlds 2 is the sequel everyone expected, but not necessarily the sequel everyone was begging for. The first Outer Worlds in 2019 was fine. Not legendary, not garbage. Think Fallout-style snack pack rather than Fallout New Vegas Filet Mignon. It had charm, it had satire, it had that Obsidian voice, but it didn't detonate the genre. So when the sequel arrived on October 29, 2025, it needed to hit harder. On SteamDB, its all-time peak concurrency sits around 18,000 on November 2, 2025. Again, not a crater, not a crown. A sequel peaking slightly under Avowed on Steam is awkward. Not because Steam is everything, but because sequels are supposed to widen the funnel, not keep it the same size. Now, here comes the part that feels like a parody written by a bored community manager. Xbox posted an image with the caption "Me replying to my haters," attached to Outer Worlds 2 promo. That is the exact energy of a brand trying to act like a streamer. It's like watching a bank try to dunk on you. The post isn't a crime, it's just misread room, and it accidentally reframes the whole launch as us versus them, where them is potential customers. If your marketing assumes people are haters, you've already admitted the product can't speak for itself. Now add the Game Pass effect. Both Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2 were available through Microsoft's subscription machine, which means a ton of people tried them, without paying $70 upfront. That's good for reach, and it's good for perception, and it's good for look at our catalog press. But there's a reason publishers still care about sell-through. Subscriptions smooth the curve, and studios still have payroll every 2 weeks. Obsidian's headcount has been reported around the high hundreds in recent years, and even if you don't obsess over the exact number, the principle is the same. RPG development is expensive, long and messy. A 6-year dev cycle plus full voice work plus cinematic quests plus modern pipelines is not paid for by downloads alone. When a studio says 2 of its 2025 titles missed sales targets, that's the polite corporate version of the spreadsheet is sweating. And here's the brutal irony. The one title that reportedly did meet expectations is Grounded 2, the co-op survival sequel that a lot of people didn't even have on their 2025 RPG Discourse bingo card. Multiple outlets talked about how surprising it was to see Obsidian shipping a third game that year, and then that third game ends up being the one that actually pops. Windows Central even reported Grounded 2 hitting 3 million players in 2 weeks. That's the kind of number you put on a PowerPoint slide and kiss it goodnight. So, what does that say about Obsidian's RPG Masters era? It says the market is punishing anything that feels like safe, committee-built, middle-of-the-road AAA, and rewarding games that are clear about what they are. Grounded 2 is tiny kids fight bugs with friends, and it sells that fantasy cleanly. Avowed's identity was less crisp. Outer Worlds 2 was sharper than the first in reviews, but it still had the "do we really need this right now?" sequel stink on it. Let's talk visuals for a second, because I can already hear someone typing, "Graphics don't matter." True, until they do. The modern baseline is brutal. When people see 6 years of development, they expect a level of polish that makes the first 5 minutes feel like the future. If your first 5 minutes looks like last gen, with better lighting, you lose the scrolling audience instantly. Not because they're shallow, but because they've been trained by the algorithm to move on the second something doesn't pop. And the first 10 seconds is where games are dying now, not in the endgame. That's why the "don't let the first 10 seconds bleed" viewers rule matters for trailers and for games. Opening moments are the new handshake. If the intro is slow, if the tone is muddled, if the UI screams tutorial homework, you're cooked. Avowed had players debating tone and writing choices immediately, and Outer Worlds 2 had people comparing it to the first game, before they even finished character creation. Now the culture war part, because you can't avoid it in 2026 gaming discourse even if you try. Studios keep getting baited into talking about politics, as if they're running for office. Players keep getting baited into treating every character design choice like a referendum on civilization. Then social media turns it into tribal sport. Here's my opinion, and you can clip this. The problem isn't diversity, the problem is laziness. If you write characters like humans, nobody cares who they love. If you write characters like corporate bullet points, everyone can smell it. When a studio hires more brand managers than storytellers, the result is dialogue that feels like it went through 5 committees and an HR compliance pass. That's not progress, it's bland. Bland is the real villain, and bland doesn't trend in a way that pays rent. Obsidian used to be the studio that took risks in writing and consequences. The modern vibe, especially in marketing, feels more fragile. Not fragile like "oh no" criticism, but fragile like we're scared to commit. Commit to crunchy RPG systems, or don't. Commit to wild satire, or don't. Commit to being a first-person action RPG that rewards build crafting, or don't. The middle path is where interest goes to die. And yes, I'm going to bring up the Game Pass trap again, because people still don't get it. Game Pass is amazing for consumers. It's also a business model that changes incentives. When success is measured in engagement and subscriber value, you can end up chasing broad appeal instead of specific passion. Broad appeal makes games smoother and safer. Specific passion makes games memorable, and memorability is what drives sales over years, not weeks. Remember when RPGs had jank, but the jank was charming because the game had a soul. Now the jank is still there, but it's hiding under a layer of corporate sheen. That's the worst combo. You don't get the warm mess of a cult classic, and you don't get the flawless finish of a blockbuster. You get a product that feels fine, reviews fine, launches fine, and then vanishes because fine is invisible in a year where your backlog is already 400 hours long. So, what's the takeaway? It's not Obsidian is doomed. It's not cancel Game Pass. It's not stop making characters that offend my uncle. It's simpler. Obsidian needs to stop shipping like they're clearing a warehouse and start shipping like they're building events. 2 of 3 major 2025 releases missing sales targets is a warning sign, especially when leadership is publicly acknowledging the lesson. They need to pick one flagship, give it the runway, and let the marketing be about the game, not about winning Twitter arguments. And if you're worried about Fable, yeah, you should be watching this closely. Because Xbox's whole first-party story in the mid-2020s has been we have the studios trust the pipeline. If Obsidian, the supposed RPG safety net, can't reliably convert hype into sustained sales, that's a pipeline problem, not a single game problem. The industry is already in layoffs and consolidation mode, and nobody is immune to the spreadsheet reaper. Final thought, and then I'll let you get back to your lunch. When a studio known for choices starts making choices that look like they were made by calendar math, you get games that feel like compromises. Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2 weren't disasters, but not a disaster isn't the standard anymore. The market wants either a masterpiece or a meme. Obsidian accidentally flirted with being both, and neither path is stable. So, yeah, I'm not saying Obsidian is in a tailspin. I'm saying 2025 was the year the studio found out that reputation doesn't auto-renew, Game Pass doesn't magically print profit, and marketing with attitude doesn't replace marketing with a hook. Now tell me, if you had to pick one thing Obsidian should do next, is it go back to hardcore RPG crunch, double down on co-op survival success, or take a smaller Pentiment-style swing, and remind everyone they can still write circles around the industry?